Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that covers all things marketing. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast gives you the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. Whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand, you've come to the right place. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Today is our 100th episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, which also means it is our final episode. And although this was obviously a choice, although I obviously saw it coming and we knew when it was going to end, we planned for the ending, everything was coordinated well, I'm still shocked, recording this, knowing that it's going to be my last time recording it. I'm shocked and I think obviously a little upset, but not in a negative way, just an upset because it's ending, and endings are always a little sad. But that is not going to stop us from really using our time today to explore the marketing world. I didn't want our last episode just to be like a conversation about how sad it is that we're leaving and that it's ending, because that's not good. That's not helpful. I truly have always wanted this podcast to be helpful and useful to every single listener, even if you just get one idea or an idea of an idea, or maybe you listened to an episode and it totally broke through that wall that you've been waiting to get through, and you came up with a brand new marketing strategy for your team and everybody loved it and you got the promotion and now you're rich and super successful. If that happened, or maybe you just got a bit of a creativity jumpstart from this podcast, either or, I'm happy to have played a small part in that, and you guys have played a huge part in me becoming a better podcast host, and it's a skill that, I didn't expect to be such a challenge or something that I would really have to grow into, but you guys pushed me and you guys challenged me, and I soon became the podcast host I always wanted to be. And I'm not perfect. By no means am I on here being like Rob Lowe on his new podcast or Rachel Hollis or anything like that. But I do feel like if you go back, you listen to the first episode, and then you listen to this episode 100 hours later, you definitely do hear the difference. And also, guys, the content we talk about now is so much more enhanced and formatted differently. And again, the equipment, I talk about this all the time. I feel like you guys could turn it into a drinking game of how often I talk about the fact that I bought a new mic for this podcast, but it truly did make the difference. And so one, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for pushing me. I hope I did the same for you. And let's stop the gush fest. Let's stop talking about how much we helped each other and supported each other. And let's get into today's episode. I have some marketing tips, some final marketing tips that are real game changers. You follow any of these, you follow all of these, it doesn't matter. They are going to change your marketing game. Now, here's the catch. Here's the little hook that I want you guys to be aware of as we go through these. They are all things that I have explained in detail on other episodes. So if you're like, hey girl, you're moving too fast, you need to slow down, we need at least 100 more episodes to get through all of these, don't worry, we have talked about these in detail. But obviously over 100 episodes, there may have been some filler in there. I won't lie to you guys. Sometimes we just talked about things because they were interesting, or because perhaps it might strike a match of inspiration in your brain. That's totally possible, and I hope those episodes did that for you. But these are the 15 tips that I think if you walk away from this podcast knowing these 15, if you know one of these 15, then you're going to go out into your marketing world and really just have ownership over it. And that was always my mission here. And I think it's a mission we really did achieve, or at least that's the response I've gotten from you guys. And it's what I truly hope happened. So for the last time, get your pen and paper out. because we're jumping right in. Number 1, consistency over quantity. Now, notice I did not say quantity over quality. We did a whole podcast episode on TikTok, and TikTok, I love to hate you, but also I just love you. Because the weird thing about TikTok is that it is quantity over quality. But in the rest of the marketing world, in the 99% of the marketing world that is not TikTok, consistency over quantity is more important. I don't care if you post on Instagram once a week compared to every single day. But I want that once a week that you post to be every Monday morning at 9:30. But if you start posting on Fridays at 3 p.m., then I need you to shift your entire schedule so that every Friday at 3 p.m., there is a new post on your social media feed. This is really important because your audience starts to expect to see your content at that day, at that time. And even if they're not registering it as a conscious thought, like, oh, hey, they didn't post today, by the end of the day, they're going to be like, hey, don't I normally see a post from Jack's Coffee Bean on Monday? That's really weird that they didn't post. I wonder if everything's okay, or maybe they're not delivering me the content I want. Maybe I should switch coffee providers. And I know it seems crazy. I know that seems like such a small thing, but trust me, the small things add up. So just remember, I don't care how much you're posting. I will say my recommended is once a day, every day of the week, except for Saturdays and Sundays. But it does matter the consistency of your posts. Number 2, content, baby, content. If there is anything for you guys to go forward in your marketing world, especially in 2020, it is the importance of content marketing. People no longer just want to be sold to. They want to feel like they are a part of the story and that they are given something other than just a promotion or more than just a sale. They want to feel as though they're giving entertainment. So that is the purpose of your content, is to entertain your audience while also educating them about your product, while also selling your product. So content can come in a million different ways, and we'll talk about more of those ways as we go on. But blogging, photos, videos, infographics, vlogs, Instagram lives, Facebook lives, podcasts, bios, any of that stuff is that content, baby content that we're after. So even if you feel like you're not an expert blog writer, even if you don't know how to film a video, then look it up. We did episodes on how to do that, but also there are YouTube episodes on how to do that. And there are books and classes and people you can hire to help you create content. It's no longer optional though. You need to have content. And it's just as important as having a quality product as having quality content. Number 3, branding cohesiveness. So we talked about this actually on our most recent episode, and I really hope you guys, enjoyed that episode, although I hope you enjoy every episode. But that one was really particularly special for me because I felt like it was the root of so many problems you guys may have been having with your marketing. And it was based off of, I'm working on a new project right now, and we're in the middle of building the brand and doing a brand photo shoot and getting all of those pieces together. And it's so much more, and it's so much bigger than just a color scheme or just a logo. And so having brand cohesiveness truly means that your Instagram profile looks like your Twitter, which looks like your blog, which looks like your podcast, which looks like your website, which looks like your videos. Now, obviously, they don't have to be identical, but there needs to be a cohesive flow between all of your platforms to bring them together as one singular brand. Number 4, at-home photo shoots. I don't know how many times I can say this. This really is the future, especially with everything that is going on right now with COVID-19, and we're not really sure when we'll be able to go back to a world where photo shoots are just happening on a regular basis, and you can hire some college student to come and take photos for you. So you need to be able to have the skills necessary to do your own at-home photo shoot. And I know that seems scary and like something you may not be able to do right away, but trust me, you can do it. It really is as simple as setting up your iPhone on a tripod that costs $10, making sure you're facing a window and that the camera is not facing the window so that you're not backlit, and then setting it on a self-timer or even using a remote control that comes with some of those tripods. It is so simple that honestly, I think it is going to overtake the photo shoot world. So definitely listen to that podcast episode to get more tips and tricks. But honestly, guys, that's it. I just gave it to you. You're welcome. Next is video content. So obviously Instagram started because it was for photos and for photo content and for photography. And I don't know if anyone remembers this, but do you remember when Instagram was mainly for food photos? Because I do. But it has since grown. And besides that, all social media platforms have grown. And they have developed to the point that you can no longer just have a photo. You need that accompanying video content to really demonstrate your product. And video content is just another way to keep your audience engaged for longer and truly help beat that Instagram algorithm that we will get to in a bit. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but when we come back, we have some more marketing tips for you to try. So stay tuned for more of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and I'll be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am so in love with the GSMC Podcast Network. I was a fan of their content before I got started on this podcast network, and I'll be a fan long after this episode comes out. The reason I am such a fan is because of the amount of content they have, but it's not a quantity over quality situation. Every single podcast is truly just wonderful, and you can tell that every single host truly does put their full attention and effort into every single episode. And I can speak to that because I know I've been doing that for the past 100 episodes, and it's fantastic to find a network that cares so much about its hosts and cares so much about the audience as well. So if you're interested in hearing a podcast about literally anything, because we have one on literally everything, then head over to the GSMC Podcast Network and check out our podcasts on wrestling, sports, entertainment, movies, and social media, and even a lifestyle one, which has soon become one of my favorite podcasts. So if you're looking for your next podcast, head over to the GSMC Podcast Network and check out our large selection. For now, though, let's jump back into today's episode, where we are talking about some marketing tips that I believe if you take from this podcast, if you take one of them, if you take all of them, then I know that I did a good job, because some of these truly will take your marketing game to the next level. So you could take one of them and it could completely change a marketing strategy, a new campaign. It could start you down a path of rebranding or a business startup, whatever it may be. If you take all of them, perhaps it means reworking your entire marketing strategy for the year, or just coming up with a new campaign idea. I truly believe, though, that all of these ideas are the essence of the 100 episodes we have recorded together. And I say together because my goodness, you guys have been such a big part of the GSMC marketing podcast for the past 100 episodes. It has been my great honor to get to be your host and getting to hear from you guys and respond to your comments and really work through your marketing problems together as one big community. And I cherish those memories. I hold them close to me, and I hope that we continue making memories together even after this podcast ends. But let's not worry about all that for now. Let's jump back in with tip number 6, planned content. Planned content is honestly the best way to show off your brand, announce a new product, or just ensure that you're keeping on that cohesive and consistent path that we talked about earlier. So tip number 8, but we'll get there, is planning ahead, where we talk about how far in advance you should plan. But basically the benefit of planning ahead is so that you know that no matter what, even if it's a slow news day, you have content that will be coming out for your audience. It's a great way to think ahead of great captions, take photos ahead of time, and just stay on top of your content. However, number 7 is organic content. Creating organic content is equally as important as planning out your content. People want to know you're a human and not a robot. So it's important to make sure that all of your Instagram stories, or at least I want to say 80% of your Instagram stories, is organic content. You are shooting it at home. You are clearly not prepped or anything like that. You are shooting straight from the hip. And that's important because then people get to see the true side of you. And this can be when you're at an event, when you're doing a live stream, when a new product has just shown up at your house and you want to show the packaging, or maybe you want to show a day in your life. All of that can be fun, organic content that allows your audience to see who you truly are. Tip number 8 is to plan your content ahead. So I won't lie to you guys. I have struggled with this before in the past. I had a boss, and I've honestly wondered if she started to listen to this podcast, but because of how much I talk about her. But she wanted me to plan out content 6 months in advance. And I remember thinking, no way, we got to do way more organic content. It needs to be spur of the moment. It needs to be sporadic, and all these very naive things that I no longer believe. Now, here's the problem. I don't know if I'm fully on board with doing 6 months in advance. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a little too hasty of a thing to just pull the trigger and say, I know my company is going to be posting this in 6 months from now on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. But I do believe you should have enough content planned to cover you for 6 months. However, with the world constantly changing, your brand constantly changing and pivoting because of the world changing, I don't think you can bet on what's going to happen in 6 months next Tuesday at 3 p.m. A really great example of this is I'm sure there were lots of companies who had their content planned out, and then suddenly the global pandemic happened and they were no longer able to use that post where it was a bunch of people hugging, sharing the same drink, and not wearing masks. They had to pivot, but they still had all that content planned out so that when things go back to normal, or when they go back to normal, if they go back to normal, they can start using that content again. So it'll never go to waste, but it's important to always have a loose structure for 6 months ahead. When it comes to planning ahead, though, which is something I do believe in, I believe in planning 3 months ahead rather than the 6. This way you already have a pretty good idea of what the world will look like for the next 3 months, although again, no guarantee, but you can do it at least seasonally. You know it's going to be summer for the next 3 months. You know it's going to be fall or winter or the holidays. So it's a little bit easier to plan around when it's 3 months rather than half a year. Number 9. Marketing strategy planning. So this is something that we spent quite a few episodes going over, but it's something that I truly want you guys to take with you when we leave this podcast, because so many people don't know what a marketing strategy is, and it is basically your Bible, your guidebook for the next year. I said don't plan your content out 6 months in advance, but plan your marketing strategy a year in advance. As soon as that year ends, review your data, and start a new one. Basically, a marketing strategy is everything you want to achieve in that year. It has stats and analytics and numbers and budgets and timelines, and basically it'll be your go-to handbook for when you want to start any new adventure, you want to start a new product launch, you want to do a giveaway, anything like that. It is a great reference to constantly turn to. Number 10, let's talk about the Instagram algorithm. If there is any top secret thing that I gave you guys during this podcast episode, it was the Instagram algorithm. And that was because it was something I didn't quite understand, and then somebody asked, and so I went ahead and looked into it. Basically, just to summarize it for you guys, you can beat the Instagram algorithm, which is the algorithm that Instagram has placed on its content to see who gets to see what and how much your post is promoted on the app. You can beat that. You can get promoted more by just simply getting your audience to stay on your post for longer than 1 second. If they simply just like it, that's not enough. You want to keep them on there for as long as humanly possible. So there's a few different ways to do this. You can have the carousel image, which is really, really great because, one, that's terrific for your feed. If you wanted to put in a photo that doesn't match your feed, you can put it as the second image on your carousel. And bonus, that second image is going to show up on your audience's feed a second time after they've already seen the first, because that's just how the carousel works. Another way to do it is video content. That way they have to stop and watch your entire video. And Instagram TV, same concept. They have to stop and watch it. Basically, Instagram just wants people to stay on their app longer. So if you're able to give them that, then they will gladly promote your content more and more. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take another break from the podcast. But when we come back, I have some few more tips on how to beat the Instagram algorithm and some more marketing tips. So stay tuned for more of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and today we're talking about marketing tips. We're talking about the 15 marketing tips I want you to take with you on your journeys once we leave this podcast, because it's our 100th and final episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, and we're going to talk more about that at the end of today's episode. So for now, I hope your pen and paper are still out. for the last time. And let's jump right back in with number 11, microblogging. So before the break, we talked about the Instagram algorithm and how that is the key to becoming big on Instagram. If you want your post to be promoted, if you want it to be showcased on the platform, then you need to work and or beat the Instagram algorithm. Basically, the Instagram algorithm allows posts that keep people on the platform for longer to be promoted at a higher level. So if you keep your audience members engaged with your post for longer, your post will then be promoted and it'll be pushed out to new people who may not be following you to begin with. One of the ways to do that is microblogging. And the reason I have this as its own tip, because obviously right before the break I gave you a few other tips, such as the carousel image and videos, but I wanted microblogging to be its own tip because I really do find it to be slightly different and it needs a bit more of an explanation, if you ask me. So microblogging is basically exactly what it sounds like. You are taking a full-length blog and turning it into a smaller microblog that will fit nicely on your Instagram caption. So I'm not saying you have to turn your 1,000 word essay on bees into a 2-line funny caption to post it on Instagram. But what you can do is take those 1,000 words, trim them down to about 100 or 200 words, find the key points. I want you to find 5 key points in that bee blog. And then I want you to write your opening sentence that's really going to hook people in. And it's going to be long enough that the see more option comes up on the photo. And then they're going to click that so that they can see your entire post. So that opening sentence is very important because it has to entice people to want to read the rest of your microblog. Then once they open it up, I want those 5 separate points listed out in bullet points. But instead of using bullets, use an emoji that is related to the blog. So in this case, you would use the bee emoji. Now, here's a helpful tip. If you're like, hey, I've tried writing a longer caption in the past, or I've tried having my hashtags down below, but it all becomes jumbled together and it doesn't look very nice. Should I still do it? First of all, no. Don't do it if it looks all jumbled up together. We want nice, clean spacing and line breaks between each of the points. To do that, every time you hit the return button to start a new line, make sure there is no space between the period and where you're about to start your new line. If there is a space, if you hit the space button, it will push it all together. So really make sure that you are going through and deleting any extra character spaces that don't belong. Finally, with your microblog, after you've gone through your 5 points that are listed and spaced out nicely, I want you to have a final line that has a call to action. And the call to action should be related to the post. You could ask people to comment their favorite type of bee, comment their favorite part of your post, ask them to like and share it in response. This way people are interacting with your post and giving you a real source of their engagement. They are either commenting, liking, or sharing. This way you have proof if that blog did better than some of your other blogs. Number 12, I want you to keep an eye on the competition. So this is a tip that, I'll be honest with you guys, it's hard to fully think of as a good thing because I'm going to go ahead and give a bit of a spoiler. Number 13 is to follow people who inspire you. I do not want you to follow your competition because if you're looking at this every single day and you're just getting down and out about yourself of, oh, my post is never going to look like that. I don't know what to do. They're getting so many more likes than I'm getting. Oh gosh, should I post more like them? Should I be more like them? Maybe I should just give up altogether. First of all, cut it out now. I don't want to hear any of that from you guys because guess what? They're doing something different from you. You guys might be selling the same thing. Maybe you have similar brands. Maybe there is something that makes them your direct competition, but you're doing different things. And if you're not doing different things, then I'm going to go ahead and ask you, what's your wow factor? What makes you different? Because I know you guys are doing different things, but maybe you've just forgotten that you're doing different things. However, the reason I want you to keep an eye on the competition is because they really are the people that are going to push you. If you notice they're doing a bunch of giveaways and all of your audience members are going over there to interact with the free giveaways, perhaps it is time for you to start doing giveaways too. Now, that doesn't mean you have to copy them word for word, but it is a great way to understand trends, see what your audience is reacting to, and just get a helpful bit of push and encouragement from someone who would not normally give you push and encouragement. It comes back in a different way. Number 13. I want you to follow people who inspire you. And this is a really big thing. And I don't think I talk about what a big thing it is enough, because inspiration for you truly is important. And especially when it comes to marketing, because I want you guys to constantly be inspired and wanting to work on new things and trying out new things and trying out new trends and ideas. And the only way to do that is, yes, you can follow your competition, but also follow people who inspire you and who you like their ideas. And maybe they don't even work in your industry. Maybe they have nothing to do with your product, but you think they take pretty photos. If you think they take pretty photos, follow them, because it'll make you want to take pretty photos. It'll make you feel enlightened and happy and overjoyed when you open up your feed and you get to see all of this inspiration waiting there for you. Number 14, I want you to take breaks. Taking breaks in your marketing is so important. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go rogue and not do anything for like a month, but I want you to take a break once a day to reflect on what you're doing and ensure that you are moving forward in a positive direction. Moving forward in that positive direction is super important for you. That way you're not just doing things out of fear. You're not just doing a post to do a post. You're always operating from a place of power and encouragement. So it's super important to take breaks when you need them and understand yourself enough to be willing to take those breaks. So make sure you're doing daily check-ins with yourself just to stay on course with those breaks. Number 15, and my final tip for you guys, is to be true to yourself, your company, your brand, and your product. That is the most useful tip I can give you guys in all of our 100 episodes. This is the thing I want you guys to take with you, is to be yourself. There is no one else in the entire world like you. So I need you to embrace that. I need your company and your product and your brand to showcase that, because that is what's going to make you the queen or king of marketing. Okay, everyone, that is it. That's it for the GSMC Marketing Podcast. Thank you guys for being a wonderful audience. Thank you to the GSMC Podcast Network for giving me this platform and allowing me to create 100 episodes of amazing content for you guys. And thank you guys for listening. Thank you for sharing your stories. And I'm not disappearing forever. You can still follow me on Instagram and YouTube. It's all Mackenzie Jaquish. You can find me through social media. It is Mackenzie Jaquish. I look forward to seeing you guys on the internet. I look forward to connecting with you through social media. And I look forward to seeing what happens to the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm still a fan. I'm still going to be listening to all of the podcasts. So make sure you check them out and make sure you keep following them, because it truly is an amazing company. I am super blessed to be a part of it. And 100 episodes. That's incredible. So thank you for listening. And I won't see you next time, but I'll see you around.
You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to any podcast app and you'll find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, you'll find it all on the GSMC Podcast Network. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.